Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here and welcome to the first day of Listmas 2022, where I'm going to be counting down my top 10 favorite coaster airtime moments. That's right, it's finally this time of year again, where I get myself as well as plenty of other fun guests to list off some of our favorite things about roller coasters and the entirety of theme parks. So make sure you stay tuned, as this is day one. There's going to be a full 12 videos, all culminating in, of course, my top 25 coasters list at the end of the month. And I can tell you some of the guests are going to be absolutely spectacular. But with that said, let's go over my favorite butterfly stomach, weightless, and out-of-your-seat moments. Starting things off at number 10, we're going to head to Mason, Ohio for their newest roller coaster, Orion, and its big old floater airtime hill. This 2020 Giga Coaster features a 300-foot drop, which I'm sure we'll be talking about in a different list down the line. But it also has plenty of other fantastic moments as it traverses its track length at a speed of over 90 miles an hour. Part of this ride is, of course, some airtime hills where you're going to be going up high in the air and then down right back towards the ground, creating this cool weightless feeling. And especially if you're not used to it, a little bit of those butterflies in your stomach. Orion has two specific points of this, two moments in a row nonetheless. A smaller speed hill, as we'll call it, and of course what's making the top 10, this big old floater hill, realistically guaranteeing more of a floating sensation, as it feels like you're out of your seat for over 5 seconds straight. That and the crazy height of almost 200 feet that this hill is gives an unbelievable view that you can only get on few coasters. This moment is very reminiscent of its sister coaster Diamondback at the same park, as well as Mako down at SeaWorld Orlando. But this one hill in particular, there's something just ethereal and captivating about it. It's just another reason that Orion is completely underrated in my opinion, but that's a list for another day. Hopping over to Branson, Missouri for number 9, we're going to be heading to its newest coaster at Silver Dollar City, Time Traveler, for its off-axis airtime hill. If you don't know what Time Traveler is, oh my goodness, we've covered it extensively on the channel, but this mock ride's extreme spinning coaster spins, drops at 90 degrees, inverts, and also has launches. Now, we're not going to be talking about any of those right now as we go into the off-axis airtime hill. Well, what's that exactly? Imagine a traditional airtime hill where you're going up and down, but now twist the track where you're turning into it one way and turning out another. And I gotta say, on Time Traveler, this moment is very, very special as you're still spinning while you're going through this element. I can't lie, there are some times on this ride where this moment might be a little hit or miss depending on what direction you're facing, but holy cow, if you're facing sideways especially, you just get yanked as you change height and direction so quickly. This is a definite moment of what we call ejector airtime in the coaster community, where it feels like you're being thrown on an ejector seat from an airplane. And it's definitely a more intense moment of airtime than Orion's floater moment. Heading out to Orlando, Florida for number 8, we find ourselves at Universal's Islands of Adventure for their newest coaster as well, Jurassic World VelociCoaster and its outward bank turn. This is going to be another moment of that ejector airtime feeling, as well as a little bit of an off-axis feeling, but instead of turning into the element one way and out another, you're turning in and out the same way, just with the airtime hill itself twisting in a completely different direction. This fabulous moment of ejector airtime doesn't give you a moment to breathe, as it's perfectly butted up with other moments of airtime, as well as a crazy 70-mile-an-hour launch and the Mosasaurus roll, arguably one of the best inversions of all time that I even debated putting on this list. But the outward bank turn makes everything seem possible, as it feels like you're denying the laws of physics from truly happening. You get a great sharp moment of airtime, as well as a lot of that twisting sensation. This is just such a cool segment of airtime on one of the best coasters around. Going to a newer state for me, we're going to Kentucky for Louisville's own Kentucky Kingdom and its RMC Storm Chaser. This Rocky Mountain construction beast of a roller coaster features airtime in every single moment, it feels like. Well, with the exception of its first drop, which is an inversion. I can tell you though that every single airtime hill on this roller coaster could have potentially made this list, as this is probably one of the best examples of ejector airtime in the entirety of the industry. Every single hill makes it feel like you're gonna fly up 50 feet in the air. But none other than the first airtime hill does it consistently for a good 3 or even 4 seconds at times. This powerful and elongated section of track is the perfect cap to the amazing twisting first drop, as this is an airtime hill that everyone should experience in their coaster riding career, as it is the quintessential ejector airtime hill. It's so ridiculously textbook, but man is it bonkers. Make sure you go to Louisville and check this thing out. At number 6, we're going to head to Sandusky, Ohio. I'm sure some of you are saying, finally, but that's for Magnum XL200's finale airtime barrage. The world's first hypercoaster with either a height or a drop of 200 feet doesn't disappoint to this day. Sure, this ride is a little janky, a little rough, but we love it. And boy, do we especially love the final 3 or 4 airtime hills on this coaster. As they were bent by hand, they are shaped like triangles, meaning you get some of the sharpest ejector airtime possible as the change in direction happens in 0.2 seconds, that your body will be still heading in an upward trajectory as the coaster train itself is already pointing downward at a 25-degree angle. Imagine this happening 4 times in a row and the last one being in a lit up tunnel. It is just insane. I'm sure some of you are wondering why it might be this low on the list. I will say if you do have some of the brake fins engage earlier on the ride, you'll hit this part a little bit slower, so it's a little less consistent in its power. But even when you get trimmed like crazy, it is a fantastic moment, and it's my favorite moment on the ride at the very least. With number 5, we're going to head back to Branson, Missouri for Outlaw Run, their wooden RMC coaster, as it features plenty of amazing airtime moments. This one specifically, though, is its off-axis airtime hill. I'm sure that you're sensing a theme at this point. I love a change in direction as well. As that change in height at the same exact time, it just leads to a bonkers moment, and Outlaw Run does it in near perfection. I'm sure some of you are like, well, if you're spinning during this moment, isn't it even cooler? Well, sure, but the thing is with Outlaw Run, it's even steeper and there's more of a twist, especially as you're going a good 20 miles an hour quicker at this moment. Maybe it's that wooden track feel, or the fact that you're in the middle of the woods and don't know where you're going. It just feels absolutely unhinged. And especially towards the front row, man, the power of this moment is equivalent to Storm Chaser's first hill, but it also has the craziness of the off-axis feeling, and man, oh man, this is another airtime moment you can't pass up. I mean, heck, Silver Dollar City in general is a park goer's dream, and while I know it might be a little out of the way for some folk, it's definitely worth the trip alone. Speaking of cranking the dial on a more traditional moment to 11, we're gonna head back to Sandusky, Ohio for Frontier Town's best airtime moment. That's right, Maverick's airtime hill. Oh my goodness. Imagine Storm Chaser's hill, but a bodybuilder crunched it together like a frying pan. This hill is pure ejector airtime ecstasy, and it's all right after some of the coolest whipping turns, as well as a full 95-degree drop beyond vertical, and it's the perfect cap to that first half of this almost perfect roller coaster. It gives a good solid 3, almost 4 seconds of that ejector airtime, while also getting sharper towards the apex of this hill. It's one of those moments I dream about being in California California, so far away from it. But man, Maverick, again, is one of those world-class coasters that every coaster enthusiast should try and ride. And I'd almost argue for this element alone. With number 3, we're gonna hop back down to Florida, this time to Tampa, for Busch Gardens Tampa's newest roller coaster, Iron Gwasi, and its insane wave turn. This moment goes directly over the station as you'll whip to the right 90+ degrees, with this wave turn also being an airtime hill. That's right, it takes the concept of an outward bank turn and flips it that full 90 degrees. So not only is there this lateral motion just flipping you like crazy outside of the turn, there's also a bend in the track that just gives you some crazy ejector airtime as well. So while yes, this moment is following that common theme of a twist in my airtime hills, this wave turn is especially a world-class element, as I still think it's my favorite part of Iron Gwasi, and I can tell you there are a lot of just phenomenal moments on this roller coaster, especially for airtime. But man, that wave turn, just with that added twist, and even a hand chopper as you go underneath the lift hill and over the station, this element is just spectacular. So again, make sure you go ride this thing ASAP. For number 2, we're actually going to head back to Louisville, Kentucky for Kentucky Kingdom yet again. Not for Storm Chaser this time, but for Lightning Run. This Chance Hyper GTX model is just insane in all ways, especially if you're an airtime lover like myself, as every single moment on this coaster offers a different sensation, especially different types of airtime, but there's nothing quite like its 3 airtime hill finale. 3 ejector hills directly back to back to back, and they boast the power of Magnum's finale, but in a more consistent pace, and with a much smoother track. Lightning Run is the perfect baby between Maverick and Magnum XL 200, and potentially even a little bit of Iron Gwasi or Storm Chaser in there, as especially this finale just tries to vault you out of your seat every single second of it. You can see in video how much people are just being flung around, but I could tell you, the video doesn't even do that justice, as I'm sure this ride could leave bruises on your thighs fairly quick with how powerful this airtime is. Lightning Run is just another phenomenal coaster, and I gotta say, this finale is probably one of the best, if not the best, on any coaster I've been on to date. What airtime moment could beat that out, you ask? Well, we're technically gonna head to 3 different places currently, as we're talking about a cloned coaster model. That's right, the RMC Raptor model, and more specifically, its prototype layout. This can be found at Six Flags Fiesta Texas as Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, California's Great America as Railblazer, and even Idaho's Silverwood as Stunt Pilot. This off-axis airtime hill directly in the middle of the ride is just ridiculous in all ways. I know it's another off-axis airtime hill, but this thing does it to the max, as there's something about how you twist in this element that makes it feel like you're transitioning almost 180 degrees while going through this steep as heck transition that gives some of the most ridiculous and sustained ejector airtime I've ever experienced, as well as ridiculously forceful laterals, so much so that I find my shoulders starting to pop out from the restraints just a little bit, as it feels like a wild bucking bronco that doesn't want me to ride it. I have a feeling those mechanical bulls that you'll find at state fairs aren't gonna do this justice, but that is one thing I will give coasters: there is nothing quite like it, especially these moments on this amazing Rocky Mountain construction contraption. It is really unbelievable how sharp and intense this one airtime hill really is. Well, with that all said, is there any airtime moment that I'm missing? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, while you're down there, make sure to go check out some of the links down in the description, including a bunch of park polls, try to help us rank every single ride at given parks, and much more. Speaking of much more though, make sure to stay tuned for much more. With Listmas 2022 just beginning, there's another 11 videos awaiting you this month, talking all about top 10s in coasters and theme parks. And I can tell you, you're not going to want to miss out on some of the guests I have scheduled. But of course, with that, I wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you on the next ride.